Welcome back to Satisfactory. And as you can see, the original base has changed quite a bit since the last time. But before we go into demonstrating the actual changes that I have made, I should go through the research that I've done. In terms of what I've done in the MAM, I have got the alternate blueprint for compacted coal, which I don't really have any use for currently, but which will become quite handy at some point in the future. I also got the alternate blueprint for a stitched iron plate and for a compacted steel ingot. The stitched iron plate I think I might already get a use of, but I don't think so. I think I'm using the other one. The compact steel ingot will definitely be useful in the future. Also, I think that I should adjust the volume slightly, so maybe put it down to 65. Hopefully that will be easier for you guys to hear me. Or rather, maybe I should put the volume at 75. You know, you can just type it in instead, but then put the music volume down to, say, 55. Maybe even 50? Yeah, that sounds better. Now, I also had to expend quite a bit of resources that was just hanging around after the old setup, so I set up one of those awesome grinder thingies, and with those coupons I got myself the railings, as you can see here. Those are called walkways. I also got the foundation pillars. These are quite interesting. I mean, I haven't used them yet, but instead of building these massive wall things that I'm doing, you can build these. They look fairly impressive, I must say. I'm amused that they use concrete while they look like steel. There's a pillar. That's what it looks like. So we might use those in certain locations. I actually personally find that I like the look of the regular concrete foundations as a pillar, but we'll see. I also got the factory railing, which is a cute little thing. It's a fence, and you can put it on the side of your foundations like this. Now this one is probably safer than this one, because this one you can actually fall out of these spacings on. This one, however, doesn't have any spacing, so it's perfectly safe. But I haven't really bothered. I had already set up all of the walkways alongside the base down there, and I haven't bothered replacing them with fences. And finally, I got corner ramps. Now these are pretty nifty. You have a corner ramp down, where you can, for instance, make, if it wants to snap that is, you can make it like this. Looks kind of cool. But of course it's for use on corners, really. The ones that I have used are these. Not that it wants to demonstrate. No, this is the 1 meter height. I have been using the 2 meter height. I've been using these ones, and I've been using these ones. And here you can actually make a nice pattern if you want to have a diagonal ramp. As for the hub research, I have researched the basic steel production, which also allows us to build the second resource needed for the space elevator. And I've also researched the vehicular transport, so that I have a truck. It's currently out resting somewhere else. Now, this is the smelting area for iron. Currently I am only using 4 of these, and that is because I don't have MK2 miners and I don't have the MK3 belts, so I wouldn't be able to transport more than 4 at a time. I'm using 4 of these here, transporting them via lift system onto a kind of a bus system over here. And this is where we're making iron rods. So we have 8 constructors making iron rods here. Then we have this part where I have 4 of these smelters here, transporting again via a bus system to these. And I have, yes, I've been playing for 2 hours. I have 12 constructors here. I think that's overkill, and I probably will adjust that, making casted screws. Catherine has informed me that it's actually supposed to be cast screws, and I do believe her. Now this is a rather sophisticated bus system, elevator system, because this goes into the I wouldn't call this a main bus, but I guess for this base it's a main bus, because there are 4 layers of MK2 belts transporting screws. That will be reduced to 2 layers as soon as I've got the next level of belts. Originally all of 4 of them were going over here to these containers here. So I have 4 containers here collecting screws. I will grab with me a few of these actually, and you will soon see why. Most of these screws here are probably going to be sent off into the grinder, because I really don't think we need 4 full containers of screws. But I had to transport them somewhere. And I might just put half of this, like I don't know how many screws we need. I don't think we need 12. So I might change some of these into making iron rods instead. But for now, this is what I ended up with. This is an artifact from the old base that I can remove now. This is where I stored the reinforced iron platings. Now this means I need to be conservative on my iron platings currently, because these are the final ones I have until we start producing more of them. Up here I've made a row of 16 smelters. I'm using 8 of them currently. This is just the denominator of where the new row of 8 begins and where the first row of 8 stops. And due to the lack of MK3 belts, I had to make some interesting bends and twists here to get, because I couldn't use an elevator here because the elevator would be too close and it wouldn't work. So these then go down to these constructors. I've built a full row of them. They're supposed to be 8, 16. But currently only 8 of these are producing iron plates. And these iron plates are then transported onto the bus from here. So I have 2 MK2 belts of iron plates going... I transport them this way to the end of the row, and then I lift them up onto the bus at the end here and at the end there on 2 different layers. Now, one of the things that I would like to get done in this episode is this little construction that I'm doing here. Now this is using the bolted iron plate. And I find that the bolted iron plate, as long as you can supply the screws, which is 250 per minute, for 1 assembler, but it can create 15 iron plates per minute, which is a heck of a lot better than a default recipe, which produces 5. It isn't, in terms of screws, it is not resource efficient, but it is very space efficient. Rather than having 3 of these, you can have 1 of them. For now, I might actually change that and have 4 of these, making 20 parts per minute instead of just this one. But the see, the 60. So this is 180 per minute for 5, but then 18 iron plates. Whereas this one is 16 iron plates, but more screws for 15. So iron plates is more expensive to make than screws, but I guess it all adds up anyways. Actually, we can do that now that I think about it. The only question is, how do I manage the elevator system here? But that is an interesting conundrum for the episode, actually, so you can see how I deal with these elevator systems. I'm going to make the elevator go... I need to know how many. There's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I need 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we'll remove that belt. But I won't add the second belt yet. I think that was a bit silly of me, because 1, 2, 3, and I'm not sure if this is going to work. That's something we will find out. Needs to be here. 1, 2, 3, and if I do this, then slip this on. Oh, that's the wrong... come on. I'm on the wrong... there we go. Need to have the green line there. For some reason that chest has been very handy. I randomly placed it there just to keep some resources lying around while I was running around doing things, and it's actually turned out quite helpful in this bus design. Okay, now if I do a logistics conveyor lift from up there and down here. That was one too far. Try that again. There we go. Yeah, that should work. So let's upgrade it to MK2. And let's build the MK2 belt on there, and this one should be MK2. The screws should be coming down. And there we go. Now we can just convey these further on. And I think we can... We don't really need it to go all the way over there. Two, 3. So it requires 30 iron plates per minute, so that should be plenty actually. Let's change the recipe on this one to be regular reinforced iron plate. And we can dump a stack of each in there. This one can be regular reinforced iron plate, and we need to build 2 more assemblers. So let's do that, 1 and 2. And that's actually quite perfect in terms of the space that we're using here. So we have 1 MK2 belt of iron plates up there. That should suffice for our setup. 2, 3, 4, 5. And I need the last one as well. But I'm going to do a little... So these 2 can be MK1 belts, but the topmost one needs to be MK2. 60 screws. Okay, so that means we can split off screws here. Notice how I made this, I removed the final part of the belt and I made a conveyor thing to hold the splitter up. It's just for visual purposes. It doesn't do anything. The splitter is perfectly happy just sitting up there. Now we need sticks and we need a conveyor lift. Turn it around. and a belt that goes into the assembler. I think we can downgrade those MK2 belts to lifts to MK1. Okay, and one thing that they have changed, which I'm very grateful for, is the fact that you can place a belt like that. That would usually encroach. They fixed that in some patch, which I am very, very happy about. Okay, now let's place another splitter. Make sure we try to center it somewhat. I think there. And we need a lift. And of course a belt. We also need a few more power poles. And yes, I do have a very bizarre system for my power poles. I'm quite aware of this. I use MK1 power poles for the setups like this. Don't think we need the final power pole in that line. Let's just remove it again. Then we need a merger. Don't need a merger on the final one, so this should suffice with just a regular belt. There we go. Now we have stitched iron plates, or reinforced iron plates, coming out of 2 of these assemblers already. Let's set up the final 2, so that we have 20 per minute. And now we need to put up the conveyor belt for the screws. And then we need splitters as well. There. And there. This is rather difficult. I wish I could get some alignment lines on this. There we go. Then we can get a lift down here, and a lift down here, and there, and finally there. Also, we can remove the tiny little belt there, and we can build... I'm just gonna let it float. That one has to float anyway, so... Also remove the topmost pole there. And then we need to belt in the resources, of course. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Can put a stack of each inside, just to get things kick-started. Don't need to carry around this much screws anyways. There we go. So with that we have 20 reinforced iron plates coming out here, and I've already prepared a small lift for getting them on the bus here. So let's just continue with this little project. There. And then we come to this area. We're going to require iron rods and reinforced iron plates to make baby Borg cubes. And I'm producing 20. We might as well put up 4 of these as well. That should be more than sufficient for one MK1 belt of iron rods and We will even have some reinforced iron plates to spare. That was the wrong button. There we go. And then, of course, we need to set up these conveyor poles at the correct locations. We need one here. We need one here. One here. And here. And then finally one here. Now I could remove that belt if I wanted to be really pedantic about what I'm doing, but I'm not going to do that. Because it's still resting on the poles, so it's fine. And the belt works, which is the most important part. Okay, now the belt is coming on number 3. Which might be a mistake. I might need it to come on number 2. Otherwise, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to transport the iron rods over here. Why haven't I removed that? Is a lift even possible between level 2 and level 1? Yes, it is. What is in that belt? Iron rods. Well, that's handy. Can I do a split there? Matter of fact, I can. Will that split allow me to do that? Because if it does, I will be very... Oh! How convenient. Okay, then we have to remove these. Wait, I don't need to remove them. Perfectly fine where they are. Why won't that clip on? Seriously? This is curious. Maybe I've done it... Oh, that's why this elevator, this lift is the wrong way. Of course. There we go. Now we're talking. They are actually coming at level 1 and no level 2. So we have rods coming on that one, and then reinforced iron plates coming on that level. Now I have to move this one. I might as well put these power poles out on the edge here. go. And done. Now the challenging part is to get these splitters to be at the right angle. I'm just gonna have to wing it. There's a slight bend in the belt that doesn't really bother me, but if it's massive, then it does bother me. And don't you dare be in the way, power pole. There we go. And then we need conveyor lifts. This looks so much neater than the old system of having the belts coming down from the stackable conveyors in bends and curves and twists and whatnot. I'm quite pleased with the lifts. They haven't always worked very well, I'll give them that. So I'm happy that they actually patched them. Now that's a turn that I'm not happy with, for instance. Let's put this closer. Is this equally bad? No, that's fine. That's fine too. See, there's a slight turn, but I'm fine with that little turn. Okay, so now this array of assemblers are making 8 baby Borg cubes per minute, which is perfect. As for the excess reinforced iron plates, I would like to... there's not going to be many of them, but I would like to have somewhere I can store them. So I'll just make a storage container. Seriously? That is just annoying that it doesn't... And I guess I can't make... because it's encroaching on the power pole's clearance. Okay, well, I can build the power poles on the corners instead. Just eliminate that one and do this. And this. Can just as well move this one as well. I like having straight lines, even on the power poles, but there is a point where my pedantism just says, okay, I'm not gonna bother with it. And this is one of those points. Now, I think I want to have this 1, 2, and 3. We need a belt going between there and there, so that I can actually build the lift going the correct way. And that's also something that you should be aware of. If you have built a belt going the way you want it to go, it doesn't matter where you start the lift, because it'll go the correct way. You might have already deduced that by yourself, but that was the wrong... No. Let's try that one more time. Now I didn't build the lift correctly because I didn't place down the belt first, so that means that it would want to go the wrong direction. Never mind. It would have gone the correct direction since I'm actually transporting goods from up to down. But yeah. Okay, so now we're storing some reinforced iron plates in this one, which is good. And then we have the baby Borg cubes that need to be transported somewhere. I'm not going to put them on the bus yet, because what I need them for is to unlock more research, and also I need them for certain buildings that I'm building. Well, I don't know if this was in the game previously, but you can actually now make perfect curves using the blueprint if you want to make sure. I'm just so used to not doing it that way that I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. Just use the mouse wheel to turn the conveyor pole around, and you can see what it would look like when you're done. Let's just make a storage container temporarily here. I don't want it to curve like that, because that's ugly. There we go, and voila! Here we have the baby Borg cubes happily coming in to assimilate the universe from inside of this storage container. Okay, well, we're nearing the end of the episode, but before we leave, I also want to show you the next outpost that I'm working on. And this, of course, is why I realized that, oh, I need baby Borg cubes, and I also need more reinforced iron plates. So this is Foundries. These Foundries, they are going to be producing steel ingots. And I can show you the alternate recipe for compacted steel ingots. They produce a substantial amount of steel ingots, that's for sure. 37.5 per minute. Wow. And it takes 22.5 iron ore. I'm not entirely sure. Let's just build a power line so I can actually check that. 45 iron ore per minute and 45 coal per minute is the regular recipe, which gives you 45 steel ingots per minute. The alternate actually makes less, 37.5, but uses less iron ore, and it uses 11.25, but that is a very bizarre recipe. Like 22.5 for 2 doesn't add up to anything, the belts. Not sure if that's a good recipe. 45 iron ore versus 22.5, but it does add the added step of compacting the coal, which I probably will do anyways, but I mean, compacted coal have a higher output on megajoule. I think it might be gigajoule. Let's check. Have some coal in the oh, it doesn't say. Oh well. So anyways, I have 3 iron mines down here. I haven't started them up yet, but I'm using MK2 belts because I'm going to upgrade them to MK2 miners as quickly as I can, since I need to unlock that particular research. And I'm going to bust them up there, and one of those belts are for coal, of course. So I will slightly sidetrack the coal belt down there, up here, and add it to the bus line up there. And yeah, broom broom. I'm not a fan of that poison area, but I managed to build the ramp and everything, so I'm just avoiding it when I drive up and down. Those 2 constructors are not supposed to be there. I was just looking at some recipes, so they will disappear. In the next episode, expect me to have steel up and running, and also expect me to have more research done, so that we can progress to the next step of our glorious little base. And yes, this definitely does have the promise of becoming a mega base at some point. I should add that I'm, of course, slightly annoyed by things like that, because I would like it to look uniform, but can you do when I'm having things up on here? And I can't really remove these ramps because there's a hill under here, so I just have to have them up there, and I don't want to ramp the entire thing just because of that tiny little hill, which is covering like 4 squares or something. So I'll just live with a slight bend in some of the belts, much to everyone's amusement, I'm sure. And yeah, what I was going to say though is that if I actually build this base into a mega base, I will probably start a separate new series for that, where I do like a transitioning into mega base, or the mega base, or something like that. Here I'm lifting up the Kateri more. And yeah, that is another thing. These containers here, this is supposed to be the resource depot for this outpost, and I'm going to bus them down using the elevators down here, and then put them on a main bus into the main base down there. Just as I've done with the copper ore here, so this is a good demonstration of what I intend to do actually. Going down, 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 and then over to the smelting array down there. For now, I think that's about it. I have redesigned this part as well. I don't think there's anything else. Nope. No, that seems to be fine. So thank you all so very much for joining me, and I hope that you enjoy the way that I'm doing this series. Feel free to leave any comments, questions, whatnot, as usual in the comments, and thank you so much for following the series. I will see you all next time.